Paco Canales and Dr. Heather Furness, they've been our clients for about a year.
Okay.
And I loved what Paco said. He said, Terri, you're disrupting the space. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that coming from you? And they've been our private clients. And then they beta tested a lot of the stuff in Apex in the platform. He's like, just one of the components saved me over 20 grand a year. The financial analytics, I can actually know what is most profitable in my business, right? I understand because you've taught me that my services need to be over 50% profit margin. I understand what my revenue per hour is, per room, per surgery, per provider. No one can tell you that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I get to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And today is no exception. We have with us today Terri Ross from Terri Ross Consulting and a new company she's going to tell us about. Terri's been in this business for many years. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you, Grant. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, you as well. We go way back, so it's been great to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Why don't you start with where were you? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to college? Give us a little background on Terri Ross.
Thank you. Midwest girl, born and raised in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Lived there till I was in my 30s. Went to medical school, actually at Wayne State. Decided I didn't want to be a doctor, but I loved the business part of it. And then right from college, right after that, got my first position with Johnson & Johnson at Ethicon Endo. So I have been in medicine for, age myself, got well over like 20, 25 years. Yeah.
And then you went to Medicis?
No, my goodness. I have been in many therapeutics. I worked for Ethicon Endo in oncology, cardiology, endocrinology for 5 years. And then I moved from Michigan to Los Angeles in 2002 and got my position at Medicis. So I was the West Coast sales director for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went to Zeltiq?
Yes, so I did about 3.5 years with Medicis. And then when Cool Sculpting was pre-IPO, I was the 8th person with Aaron back in the day. Yeah, so they recruited me for the West Coast to launch Cool Sculpting in the US and Canada.
And then?
After it went IPO, I wanted to have a baby. Needed to do fertility. So I thought, let me get out of the corporate space. I was traveling so much. Right. And I started getting calls. I ended up getting a call from Garth Fisher and Paul Nassif right at the same time that I quit. So I had my daughter in 2013, and then I started consulting for Garth in 2012 and Paul Nassif, and worked for them. And then that sort of catapulted my consulting career.
And tell us about that. Tell us about your consulting career.
Yeah, amazing. I think that... as you know, look, and you are kind of an anomaly. So with all due respect, I think, most physicians are not good business people, right? You guys are taking care of your patients, great in the OR, great providers, but yet the business infrastructure was lacking, right? Without patients in the door, there's no sales. So the conversion and the systems and the structure and the sales component. So I think that was really when medical spas were also starting out. And so Garth wanted to start one. Right? He's a very well-known plastic surgeon.
Sure.
And wanted to start a medical spa. And I worked physically, not for him. I was my consulting company. But I was in his practice for about a year and got his med spa up to about a little over $1 million that first year. So really just taking a look at the inefficiencies in a practice and taking what I learned on the corporate side from sales and really looking at what was missing and how could we catapult and elevate a practice, not just in revenue growth, but improve efficiencies and staff productivity.
And you've been doing that since when?
Gosh, 2012.
Okay.
Since 2012.
And how many doctor clients do you have now on the consulting?
35 on retainer.
Okay.
And then we'll get into Apex, but we launched that in like late January.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us what Apex is?
I love consulting so much, and I've written a sales training curriculum. Last year, I had brought on a new consultant that came from another firm. We were really reaching capacity, and it was hard for me to reach the masses.
Okay.
And I couldn't scale, right? But I knew
you couldn't scale yourself.
I couldn't scale myself, right?
Okay.
But we were seeing exponential growth, helping our practices grow 1 million plus, right? And when COVID hit in March, Robbie joined us and we have 2 other analysts. And I think that we were getting so many calls from physicians now more than ever, really looking at their books And I think for the first time saying, holy shit, my P&L is shitty, or I'm losing money, or I have to shut down, I have to lay off my staff. How am I going to make up for lost revenue? It catapulted our consulting business, almost quadrupled that from that perspective. And then I was reaching a tipping point. And I couldn't we were at capacity. Now, how could I help more people? So I was introduced to a guy named Mike, who happened to be an investor in several technology companies, SaaS companies, which is software as a service, guys. We'll talk about that. And he really got invested in the aesthetic space and really took a liking, or I should say due diligence, in where were the gaps? What were the inefficiencies, and how could I take what I was doing as a consultant and put it into almost democratize something where people weren't going to just a course and coming back with a binder. They actually had not raw data out of your software, and I don't know what the hell to do with the information. How do we take what I was doing, and he helped me build a technology company, a business intelligence. So it's not practice management software. It truly is business intelligence platform that internally inside you have one space to monetize all of your business. You have sales and finance courses, you have financial algorithms, you have social media analytics tied into one, up to 50 API integrations. And then do you know Barry Fernando?
Yes.
Okay, so Barry came to me with the AND data and shared with me that I was one of the only consultants that actually was teaching on the value of KPIs. People throw around that word and they're like, what the hell is a KPI? Or if I know what it is, what do I do with the information to actually grow my business? How can I look at something and say this is working and this is not working? So I signed an exclusive with Barry, with Ronan.
Okay.
And I have exclusivity to the AND data within the Apex platform, which is benchmarking data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm going to do a 2-hour workshop with Barry at the Aesthetic Society meeting.
Okay.
In a couple of weeks. You'll be there, right?
Yep, I will be. What day is that?
Saturday.
Okay.
I believe that's the 8th. Yes.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for you? What's
this
going to look like?
Paco Canales and Dr. Heather Furness, they've been our clients for about a year.
Okay.
And I loved what Paco said. He said, Terri, you're disrupting the space. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that coming from you? And they've been our private clients. And then they beta tested a lot of the stuff in Apex in the platform. He's like, just one of the components saved me over 20 grand a year. The financial analytics, I can actually know what is most profitable in my business, right? I understand because you've taught me that my services need to be over 50% profit margin. I understand what my revenue per hour is, per room, per surgery, per provider. No one can tell you that. So what's in it for us is really perfecting the platform, continuously adding on, growing, working with people like you, really partnering with industry, and just making sure that clients, one, it's very affordable. It's very affordable.
Is it a monthly charge?
No, it's an annual fee.
Okay.
Annual fee, right? It's $5,000 with an annual recurring fee.
Okay.
But I think the benefit too is that they're not getting a platform. And what I really want to emphasize is that people can hire us for $30,000 plus. You get me and my team every single Tuesday for live coaching calls to hold people accountable, to help them make sure they're using the platform in the best way possible so that they feel completely supported, in addition to a private community where they still get that ongoing coaching.
And can it be with any EMR system?
So right now we are working on, that's a great question. We are working on API integrations with Patient Now and Simplast. Okay. Because I think that's one of the things that have come up, right? So I hear 4 things constantly that I think every physician, and please tell me if you think you're right. Here's what they say to me. When I do discovery calls, right? I'll say, Dr. Stevens, what are you looking for? Almost every practice will say, I want to increase my revenue. I want to hire staff productivity. I want to improve my efficiencies, my operating efficiencies. And I want more profit. Would you say that that's true?
Sure.
Okay, cool. And then I'm like, great, what are you willing to do to get there? Because then the him and haw side will be, oh, I don't know if my team doesn't have any time. Or how long is that going to take me? And I'm like, well, what is your time worth, right? Money's a mindset. And if $5,000 could lean into $1 million of revenue, is that worth it for you to invest, right? And that's really what it's about. making sure that they have. So we're trying to simplify, because the financial analytics, currently they would just run the reports in the software and plop in the data. In the API integration, it will do it for you.
It'll load up the data.
It will load up the data.
And again, with any EMR, or you mentioned you're working with Simplex
and Patient Now right now.
What's it built on now? Or which?
So it's our own internal. We've designed it. We've worked with CPA firms.
Okay.
Our financial analytics, they're almost 7 calculators, right? So we have a profit per treatment, a revenue per hour. We teach you how to do a forecast and a budget, compensation worksheets, because one of the things we found were people were either paying illegally, you can't pay commission in medicine, or they were paying their providers too much versus what they were yielding in terms of revenue, which should be about 5 to 8 times their salary. So 2 compensation workbooks, a goal tracker, and then if somebody wanted to start up a company, we built a startup cost calculator. So right now in our finance course, we teach every practice. We don't want to just do it for you. We want you to understand the why and the how. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a more competent team, a more competent team. You're going to have higher patient conversions, and you will achieve those 4 things that everybody wants. But, it takes 2 to tango, right? I'm going to provide.
Do you actually come into the practice?
I can if people want me to, right? Mm-hmm. But for Apex alone, it is a platform, right, with coaching. Now, if they wanted us to come into the practice, we could do that, and that would be sort of a one-off. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're doing this to scale up, right? You
Yes.
said you had 35 customers in the other system, the
Correct.
consulting
So
system.
Terri Ross Consulting has 35 on retainer right now. Okay. Our goal is that I might take on perhaps 10 clients a year, but everyone, whatever, regardless of what phase you're in your business, should be on Apex, because it fundamentally has 5 components that every practice needs.
Tell me about those 5 components.
Thank you for asking. They all play upon each other. So really the 5 components are training. As I mentioned earlier, right now, there's no consistent way to train staff. Grant, I've been to your practice for a long time. You have a huge staff. You can go to a course, you come back with a manual, and then it just sits there. So as practices are onboarding, or even right now want to elevate their team. Mm-hmm. So training is the foundation. There's a sales training course and a finance course. We teach you literally granularity, how to run your practice. From there, once you understand that, now you have, you have data that is evergreen data. Your team can, again, continue to onboard. It's unlimited users, which is amazing. So there's training is the number one thing. Abacus is our financial analytics tool. There are 7 financial optimization calculators built in Abacus. Once you learn what to do, you're going to go into the calculators and you're going to take that raw data from your practice management software and be able to input it and physically spit out an answer. Again, what's profitable, what's not. Okay. So training, Abacus. Lucid is our social media, social marketing analytics. So one of the challenges were Terri, my team's logging into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, email marketing, and I don't even know how we're performing. You can literally plug in all those integrations on the Apex dashboard, see how your entire practice is performing.
Okay.
So training, Abacus, Lucid. Gauge is our competitive benchmarking data through Ann. Now you can benchmark yourself against other practices. Okay. So when I hear I'm doing well compared to who? Well, compared to what? Right now you can actually look. That's 4. And then our community is number 5, where you get weekly coaching with myself and my team.
That's great.
Thank you.
Where do I sign up?
I'm going to bring those papers to you right after this.
Okay. So Terri, what was the aha moment when you discovered you wanted to do this?
God. And I'm going to ask you the same question. I know you're involved in some stuff. I think that doing now consulting for the past, almost 15 years, I've realized every practice fundamentally has the same challenges. Whether you are a startup, you're in business 1 to 3 years, you're at a caliber of yourself, 20 plus. Again, I've had Paul Nassif's been my client, Paco had some really big people, and everyone wants the same thing. Again, they want a competent team. They want their finances in order. They want to get more patients in the door. They want to be more efficient, all the things we've been discussing. And I felt like I am only successful if I can help many more people. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't be everywhere all the time. So I felt like, how could I reach the masses? And COVID was the perfect time for me. I sat with my head down in my team and I said, how can we take what we do and bring it to more people and to serve more people and to give them the tools, one, that they can afford, but that actually move the needle. That's just some bullshit, this another software program. That's not what it is. And then still give my time so they feel supported. And so again, meeting this friend who happened to be an investor, we were able to really sit down and develop Apex that allowed us to take everyone's same pain points, everyone's challenges, and provide it in a platform that gives you the answers. But same with you. I know we discussed the Engage. Is that what it is, right?
Engage.
Yeah. So for you as a physician too, even with what I'm talking about, Grant, like you are a busy, renowned, I used to always wonder how the hell do you make money, because you were traveling the country, teaching, lecturing, right? And yet had this huge successful practice. So, and you've always been a guy that cared about analytics.
Well, I cloned myself.
Yeah, no, we need to, right? So knowing that, like, how have you been able to even do what you do where it's repeatable and you're not just doing the same?
Well, with Engage Technologies, and the division we're in is the Aesthetic Innovation Division. But with Engage, we're able to form what we call an arc of engagement. And it basically, the patient experience from the moment she or he reaches out to us, the first point of contact, right on through before they come in, when they come in, and then let's say they have a procedure, the pre-op, right on through, and we do it using QR codes to access the text, and the text then is short little videos, 60 to 90 second videos that are scripted by our board and approved by the plastic surgeons in this particular case, and derms, and we have a number of aesthetic providers on our board. And they approve the content, and we have professional actors. And in some cases, the physicians themselves want to personalize the messaging or customize it in their own way. They do it one way versus someone else doing it a different way. Yeah. So we allow that also. The company itself is based out of Boise, Idaho. And
how did that come to? I love the concept. So you're even saying if a web lead came into the to the practice, it would almost immediately trigger this nurturing sequence, if you will.
Yes, it's like a drip based.
Amazing.
And the patient has the ability to turn it off, so it's not invasive.
Yeah.
It's HIPAA compliant.
Yeah.
It's on a need to know basis when the patients have those questions. And actually, they started initially with ophthalmology, optometry, and dental services. So it didn't start initially. It's been going for two plus years in those areas. And there's a medical division also.
How did it evolve into aesthetic space? How did that happen?
Some of the board members suggested that they look towards aesthetics. And they called me. Michael and Lloyd called me and interviewed me and came down here to Manhattan Beach. And off we went, and they were on the program. They were on the Technology of Beauty.
Amazing. Well, I love what we're saying, and I love the parallel to sort of what you're doing, what Engage is doing to what I'm doing, because you just asked me, like, what's happening on the forefront of the ground, right, and the ground efforts, and taking what I'm doing and doing what you're doing, we're just making that patient experience better.
Yes.
Providing a greater level of education, right?
Making the physician's experience better. So it's not just the patient, it's also the doc, right?
Of course.
And the overall health of the practice. I mean, how many times have I given the same lecture about, say, breast augmentation, right? Imagine if I didn't have to keep doing that.
Yes.
And the consistency it would give for not just the patient, but the patient's family members, the caregivers.
Absolutely. Phenomenal.
And so
phenomenal.
It's patient education as well as optimization in terms of preparing for the surgery and taking care of the surgery, protecting their investment, if you will, like you were saying about skin.
Yep.
And some of the docs say, well, what do I have to do to prepare to come to do the whiteboard sessions? Sure. And I say nothing. It's muscle memory. You don't need to prepare. Just come in. It's all muscle memory. You've said the same thing thousands of times. And they'll fill up a whiteboard. With
that was brain dump. I love
and then
that.
you'll see your brain on a whiteboard. I've done it. I went to Boise a few times and did it.
Did you? Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
I love it.
And some of our other docs have already done it, and they're going to be doing it in Miami. And we're going to be providing this as a service. And a number of corporations have actually started using this. Allergan, Revance, MERS, a number of others, Jan Marini,
from the product side.
From the product side.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's the most logical, efficient way. And like you said, we're providing greater level of education, both for the company, you as a physician, right? I think it's fantastic. It's great. Well, that's where we're going to keep evolving.
Now, I'd like to switch gears a little bit with you. You've been in this aesthetics business for a long time.
Don't age me.
Almost as long as me.
Thank God we're in that
I
the
like
pretty
to
one.
ask my guests what they see in the future. Like, we're just coming out of COVID. What do you see in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years in the aesthetics space?
Do you mean from a growth perspective, technology perspective?
It could be any of the above. What's hot? What's not? What unmet needs are going to be solved? Yeah. Just what do you think the business looks like? Is it going to grow? Is it going to stay the same?
I think that the business, because I have access to the benchmarking data, I can see what happened. I think because we were in COVID, people still wanted surgeries, right? They still wanted these treatments. From the medical spa space, there's around 6,000. I think that's intended to be around 8,200 for the upcoming year and beyond, right? Double-digit growth. I do think, though, that companies that are selling lasers in the past, I had a meeting with Lutronic yesterday. They're wanting to almost roll up Apex into the sale of their lasers because they realize that they can't just sell a box anymore, right? They have to help practices, again, how do I sell it, right? Not just have that thing sitting there. In terms of technology, I don't know. I think that there's so many different competitors out there all doing some variation of the same thing. And again, you have one of the best practices in the country, right, where you have all of these tools. So I do think the industry will continue to grow. I think it's going to have to find a different way to evolve and to continue to bring value to you guys.
Interesting. So from a practice perspective, since you're on the ground and you're in these practices and you see sort of behind the curtain in a way that industry can't, what do you see at the practice level in the future? If you had a crystal ball here, based on the knowledge you have of the practices, what do you see in the future in the actual practices?
Thank you. I'm going to answer it from a perspective of something I teach. I teach the 7 steps to a multi 7-8 figure practice. And I think that people sometimes tend to think it's easy to get a brick and mortar, right? And the patients will come and skip a beat, right? Yep. I think Max and I were talking, right, that it's a spoke in a wheel and you can't miss a beat on the steps. So, your website, I think people try to say, I'm gonna lax on software. I'm gonna get a shitty website. I don't really need to train my team. What I see is that to be in that top 1%, and I mean, it's not an unreachable number, but if the average medical spa only does 1.5 million, that is not a lot of money. If the profit margins are roughly averaging around 20%, how do I get to the 25, 30? We can't, especially coming out of this economic downturn, operate our businesses the way we did before. It's not just a medical practice. You have to run it like a business. So I think the trends are going to be, if you want to be smart and thrive in the business, in the industry, it's not going to be good enough that you're just a good surgeon, right? Because I know nobody went to medical school to be average. So your practice can't be average. So it's really saying, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to, for self-serving, I'm going to invest in Apex, or I'm going to invest $5,000 of my money because I want my practice to operate efficiently, again, in order to achieve those revenue goals. Yeah, that's kind of what I see.
Terrific. What are your thoughts about subscription aesthetic services? The whole subscription model.
Yeah, the whole membership thing.
Any thoughts on that?
I have 2 thoughts, and everybody that knows me, I like keep it real. From one perspective, I think it's great. If you're able to provide value to the client and they're utilizing the membership to get the services. What I don't like is that people have them and that it's adding increased revenue right to the bottom line, but then they're not really catering to the patient, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Do you mean that the patient is not
coming in right, and not benefiting, right? And then we all know we all have a million subscriptions, and right, and then we forget to cancel them. So I think if it's done well and right, they're great. I just want from the patient side, I'm always an advocate for the client and for the patient that they're really utilizing the services. Because the way I teach in sales training, that it's not a symptomatic approach. If you're going to do a facelift on me or a rhinoplasty, I might have shitty skin. I want to have the treatment plan, and I want you or the providers to tell me I might need retinols, antioxidants, a hydrofacial. I'm going to get my surgery. I'm going to come back for my lasers. I need the plan. Right? It's not up to us to judge if I can afford it or not. But I want to be told by you, right, that Terri, this is what you need to achieve the outcome you're looking for. And I think that is also a big gap in the market. We don't look like, we're not doing it like that. We're in a hurry, we're churning and burning, but yet we want to reach that, that pinnacle, that 1%, but we're not willing to take it to the next level because we're too worried the patient can't afford it or that's not what they asked for. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What do you think about that though?
Well, I think subscription is excellent. What we've found in our own practice, as well as the practices around the country who have incorporated it through the HintMD platform, is that
amazing.
The patients are coming in more frequently. They're staying therapeutic throughout the year instead of being therapeutic, non-therapeutic, therapeutic, non-therapeutic, like with toxins. They're therapeutic the whole year. So they're coming in almost 4 times a year for toxins instead of less than 2 times a year, which is the average. They're consuming the products more, skincare, as well as fillers. We don't use a subscription model for surgery at all, just the non-surgicals. And we can't do it with all of them. We're just starting with Cool Tone also now, a subscription model, kind of like a gym membership.
Oh, okay.
So come in for your 4 to 6 treatments over the 2 to 3 weeks, and then come in monthly and pay a monthly subscription, just like you pay for
maintenance. But that's I think that's,
come in and get your abdomen done or your buttocks done, or both, and that's been very successful. And I think you said we all have many subscriptions. That's right, and that's because it's convenient and it's a way to budget. So I find that this is actually a very approachable system, and our patients do utilize it. Now, the loyalty cards, they don't utilize it fully. That's a little different. They buy them and then they don't utilize them.
But I think what you just explained makes so much logical sense because, right, we still want to maintain that outcome, and that's the best way to do it as well. And you're right. If I looked at some of the data, it looked like patients, we want people to come back that 4 to 6 times, and that is a great way to be able to get them to do that.
And does your platform give that sort of data to the physician that buys your platform? Like how often the people are coming in?
So I have access again to the benchmarking data, so I can toggle it between every surgery, every location, every demographic, every sector, and I can give you the lifetime value and what they should be spending.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll certainly want to look at that platform for sure. That sounds great. I love that kind of
Thank
those
you.
metrics.
Well, you've always been like the data guy, which I always have loved and appreciated about that.
Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell your adoring fans?
I know. No, I just want to thank you again for having me, for allowing me the opportunity to really, talk about me and my past and what I've been able to do to help the industry. I think that our whole goal as a company and our mission and our vision is really to help serve, support, educate, but elevate and really get out the mentality of, just working in your business, but that you have to work on it. You really have to work on it.
Yep.
To have again.
This is overdue.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's terrific, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for sharing your time with us today on our show. I look forward to having you again, and I wish you nothing but the best with your new company.
Thank you, Grant, so much.
Apex, right?
Apex, yes.
Is that just APX or APX?
Which stands for Aesthetic Practice Accelerator.
Aesthetic Practice Accelerator, APX. Check it out. Thank you all very much for joining us today on the Technology of Beauty. And thank you, Terri Ross, for being our guest.
Thank you, Grant.
See you next week.